What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and today we're going to take a look at Eden Star, a new game from Flix Interactive that's currently in early access. So kicking off with Flix's own description of the game, they describe Eden Star as an immersive sci-fi survival game that blends innovative physics-based combat, destructible environments and free-form construction with the exploration of a hostile alien world. Now that sounds really cool, but let me dive into the game and talk a little bit about where the game currently sits and what you can expect to find in it, and maybe then a little bit about what the future of the game holds. So when you begin in Eden Star, you are actually launched from the Eden Star being a colonizing spaceship of some sort, and you are launched down onto the planet of Faris 7, you and an Eden kit. Now you aren't unfortunately launched in exactly the same place, so the first thing you'll need to do when you spawn into the world and arrive on the land of Faris 7 is go and locate this Eden kit. And it gives you a nice introduction to sort of the visuals and the UI of the game before you get there, especially if you have the tutorial enabled. And the Eden kit is going to be your hub, both for building but also for your own safety. So this Eden kit can be picked up, and using the matter, which is the glove on your right hand, and this is sort of intrinsic to the entire gameplay, and a lot of the gameplay revolves around this glove, which is a really cool little element and how they've decided to go about introducing that into the game, because that glove is used for building, it's used for combat, it's used for mining, and it has a whole upgrade tree and a whole different bunch of things that you can do with it. But we'll move on to that a bit later. To begin with, the first thing you're really going to have to worry about is getting the basic resources in to build up some simple structures. At the moment you have the option in the game to build up some basic defences and to sort of build a base structure around your Eden kit that will give you the ability to get off the ground, basically. But there is a lot more on that side of things to come. And one approach that Flix have taken, which I think is quite nice and not necessarily an approach that every developer takes these days, is their patches when they release them and their content when they release it is 100% solid. So I've been playing this game now for a couple of weeks, but with one patch cycle during that. And my own experiences, alongside a lot of what you read from the reviews and the comments on the game at the moment, is that when they do release a patch, it's done really well. Everything in it works like you'd expect, there's nothing broken, and the features that they add in that patch are massive. So just briefly, the most recent patch, which came out today in fact, adds the ability to repair and recycle all of your structures, adds in a new enemy and a new AI system for that enemy, as well as improving the AI system for the previous one, adds in a new to constructible base defense system with these energy shields, these laser shields, which are really cool, keep enemies back out of your base, and have really changed the dynamic of the game quite a lot just in one simple update. So moving on, once you've sort of established your very basics of your base, the next thing you're going to need to do is explore a little bit and go and find some more of these materials, because not all of the resources are available where you start off. And that's one nice thing about this game, is it very much does encourage exploration, even in its early stage. And right now, none of the world generation is procedural. You're actually launched onto a set map each time. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be the game the whole way through, I believe. And a lot of what Flix are doing with this game is saying what they would like to do rather than making promises that they can't meet yet. But I believe that the intention is for the game to be not only procedurally generated as far as the world is concerned, but also some of the other elements of it to be procedurally generated as well. Having explored a little and now unearthed some more of the rarer materials, perhaps gone a little bit further afield in order to find them, the chances are you've probably now encountered both some enemy creatures and also a bit more of the general environment. And even though we don't currently have different biomes in the game, it does seem that there's a really nice sense of different types of terrain already. And on that note, there is full plans for different biome types in the future. It's just at the moment we've got this sort of single biome map, which has a nice amount of variety in it, and interestingly, a nice amount of variation in terrain height, which is useful because you can both wall run and also climb up quite a lot of quite steep surfaces, and it's going to be important to do so in order to properly find all the materials you need. Some materials, for example, are only found, as far as I can tell at least, very high up on mountainsides and tend to be tucked away quite well, and those are the ones that you really want to get your hands on. Before you've really had a chance to explore properly though, the game's day-night cycle is going to come into play in a way that is very important, and that is at night the world actually becomes hostile to you in itself. It's not currently explained exactly what it is that is causing you the issues, but you need to remain basically within the safety bubble at night, otherwise you have a permanent ticking loss to both your health and your shield all the while you're outside. On top of that, you also have the concern that your Eden kit will actively attract monsters at night. Monsters, bugs, whatever they are, the local populace that doesn't seem to be very pleased with you being there, are drawn towards the Eden kits and will actively attack it during the night period. Now, in the recent patch that came out today, they actually adjusted the day-night cycle a bit, and there's a lot of balancing changes still going on, which is very, very cool to see. But for the time being, those night periods are pretty damn scary. I've had a good few attempts at it now, and so far the best I've lasted is probably about 15 days, at which point the night attacks got so bad that I just lost my Eden kit straight away. On that note, however, losing your Eden kit isn't necessarily the end of the game. Currently, I believe there are 3 of these available, but around the map and dropping at certain periods during your game, and I believe this is slightly random periods, there are other Eden kits available. So in my most recent game, I was actually able to lose my Eden kit on one night, survive until the next morning, and then run crazily across the map trying to find and eventually locating one of the other Eden kits that had dropped down nearby, and resetting myself up again, in fact in an area that was much more profitable. There was much better resources around where my new Eden kit was than where the first one was. One thing I haven't touched on yet is the combat system in this, which becomes more obvious at night, but in fact will be relevant during the day later on as well. And this is really, really good fun. You can build standard weaponry, so there's a pistol and an assault rifle available at the moment, there's a baton you can hit people with, but in reality the really good fun, and the thing you'll spend pretty much all your time doing, is flinging aliens into trees using the matter tool. It's got a force grip sort of effect. And a lot of the stuff with the matter tool also, worth mentioning, looks really, really cool. I love that art style with the beams coming out of your hand. It just looks right. And you will spend a lot of time flinging aliens into trees, catching them in the air when they're in the air and flinging them into each other, all that sort of good stuff. And it makes the combat seem quite enjoyable, albeit pretty damn hard. Now, aside from what I've mentioned here, there's a pretty extensive upgrade system already in place for the matter tool and for some of the other bits in the game, your suit, your weapons, that sort of idea, and there's a lot more of that planned in future. I don't want to go too much into it, leave that down for you guys to discover, but talking a little bit about what's planned in the future that I haven't touched on yet. Obviously, these are things where Flix have said they would very much like to do them, they're planning them, they're trying to put them through development, but if at any point they don't seem to work right, they're going to sort of pull back on that. They're not making promises about it, which I think is a really good approach. It's one that perhaps more developers should take. Another approach to this that they're taking that I really quite like is using a site called Trello in order to allow the community and the people who have backed their game to communicate with them and also directly show what it is that they're working on, what it is they've got in development, what it is they've got planned for the future, and really communicate with their community. I stuck the link down below the video, so I recommend you go and check that out just to see what they've got in future. But talking about some of the sort of the cooler ones, the ones that stand out to me, there is an intention to introduce AI, so AI as in on your side, friendly AI, robots, some sort of helpers. There's not that much information about exactly what yet, but that in itself sounds very, very cool for this sort of game. The big one that I'm sure a lot of people are going to ask about, multiplayer. They've said as close as they can to saying yes without actually saying 100% definite. But at the same time, it's on that Trello board, it's got planning there, and they're talking, their plans are for a co-op mode, which I think makes a lot of sense with a game like this, with almost those tower defense sort of elements to it, and then a PvP mode like you would expect. So that sounds very, very cool, and they've got quite a lot of detail to those plans. So it does lead me to believe that they're really looking into this stuff quite hard, they just don't want to commit to it when it's not ready for that. They're also due to add a lot more enemies into the game, so there's a huge variety of enemies out there, and some of which are looking like they're going to be pretty massive and pretty hard to defeat. And then on top of that, there's the biomes that I mentioned earlier, and again, there's some early artwork up for that too, which looks really, really cool, and I think would make the game even better than it is currently. Now, I don't like giving recommendations on whether you should go out and buy something in these videos, that's not the point. The point is to try and show you guys the game, where it currently sits, how far in its development is it, and to let you guys decide what you think of these. But I would say with this one, it's looking pretty solid, and I do like how the developers are going about approaching the various challenges they're going to have, making a game that's as good as you want it to be. So there are links down below the video to their website, to their Steam page, and also to the Trello board I mentioned earlier. I really recommend you go and check those out for yourselves, see what they've got in mind for the future. I will also be doing some update videos on this game as it progresses, because so far I've been having a lot of fun with it. And until then, hope this was helpful, hope this was informative for you. If it was, please hit like, please hit subscribe, really helps me and the channel out. And otherwise, thanks a lot for watching guys, I'll catch you next time.